Hi and welcome back to my channel. So today I just want to make a quick run through of the books that I've been reading lately. So basically the books that I read in February, and I guess there are going to be some surprises here. And I wanted to go through the books in the order of how I rated them. So I want to start with the books that I liked the least, and then I want to end with the books that I liked the most. And in February I read fewer books than in January, so I ended up reading 5 books. So the first one, which I liked the least, is, well, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but it is Babel by R.F. Huang. And well, I was so excited going into this book. It's been so hyped on BookTube, on BookTok, on Book Everything, and it's dark academia. It's about colonialism, history, language, and it has a magical element too. So all things that I really like. And I also know that the author have written other books that are very popular, even though I haven't read them. But so it sounded so promising to me, so I was very excited going in. But then I ended up hating the book, which yeah. And why did I hate the book? Well, first off, the magic system just didn't make any sense to me at all. I won't say anything more because I don't want to spoil it, but to me it didn't make any sense. The writing I did not enjoy. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't fun or engaging to me. The characters I found very interesting, very flat, very flat, I guess. I didn't care about them, basically. They were all the same. They didn't stand out. Their characters were very underdeveloped, as well as the story. So much time and effort was spent on details that no one cares about, and not enough time and effort was spent on actually building an interesting plot. So yeah, that's pretty bad. But the main reason why I hated the book is that it it didn't allow you to reflect and think for yourself. It was constantly riding you on the nose. What I really like about reading is to be given a story and then take from it what I felt when I read it, and not adopt someone else's opinions or feelings or reflections. I want to do that for myself. That's really why I didn't enjoy the book. So next up is a book that I enjoyed a lot more than Babel, and that is Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis. And Bret Easton Ellis is the author of American Psycho, which I have not read. I love that movie, but I've never read the book. And instead of reading American Psycho, which I already know the story of very well, I decided to give one of his other books a try. So Less Than Zero is basically inspired by his upbringing in the very affluent parts of LA. The main character is home in LA during a Christmas break from his East Coast college. We are following him around to different parties, reconnecting with his girlfriend, reconnecting with his friends from LA who are still there. And it's basically very decadent, a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, a lot of parties, parents who are absent, a lot of money. The reason why I didn't love the book is you don't really care about the story, about the people, but you are also not expected to care, which is why I sort of enjoyed it, because the main character doesn't really care about anything, and the other characters, they don't really care about anything either. So you are not expected to care about them either, which makes it sort of interesting to follow the story, if you can call it a story. It's interesting to see how a totally different youth can be experienced. That's sort of the opposite of your own, not the opposite, but very different from your own. So that was interesting. But like I said, I didn't care about the story, and I think that if I'm going to spend a few hours on a book, I'd rather read something that I do care about. So I think therefore I would not recommend for someone who just has a few hours here and there to read books. Then I think that there are books that are more interesting to spend your time on. But I do think that Bret Easton Ellis is a good writer. It's very quick, engaging language, so I did enjoy that part. So next up is The Olive Branch by Joe Thomas. I have the Swedish version, but it's an English original. And I was given this gifted this by my sister, and it's basically about a woman in England who sort of, while a bit drunk, accidentally buys a farm in like an olive farm in Italy. And after sort of breaking up with her boyfriend and sort of wanting to start a new life, basically. So she goes to Italy to like renovate the house and get the like olive farm going again. And so she has to deal with her neighbors, like a very like large Italian family, who are not too happy that she's there having what they see as their house. And one of the like men in the family sort of becomes a love interest, and that's not a spoiler because this is like a romance book and it's fairly obvious from the beginning that this is going to happen. And if you're looking for like steamy romance, this is absolutely not for you. They like kiss twice and that's it. So absolutely not a steamy like modern romance in that sense. It's much more about her like finding her new life in Italy. I mean, it's not great literature, but it's a cozy read. And I have tried some of the very popular like romance books that you see on BookTube and BookTok and have not enjoyed them at all. And I think actually that this was better than those very hyped up books. And it's also set in Puglia in Italy, where I went last summer, which I didn't know when I started reading it. So that was fun. It's not a like significant part of the story, but it still like was fun to like, while I was reading the story, sort of imagining the places that I saw last summer when I was there. And I absolutely love that place and would recommend anyone to go there, and I would love to go back myself. So yeah, I think that made me enjoy this book a little bit more than I would have otherwise. So next up is not this book, which is Resurrection, or Résurrection in French, by French authors Eric Giacometti and Jacques Raven. The book that I did read is the first book in this series. So I accidentally bought the fourth book at the grocery store, not realizing that it was part of a series. And then much later, when I was about to start to read it, I realized my mistake, but I went onto Apple Books and found the first book in the series in English for very cheap. So I bought that and read that in February. And I enjoyed it very much. It's about history, it's about the Second World War, which is something that I like a lot. It's a bit Da Vinci Code, you could say, because it like deals with like secret societies and sort of quite ancient history, which the Nazis believed to be true and sort of supported their theory about like their excellence and the excellence of the Aryan race, basically. And like all the stuff that I read about that in this book, I have seen in documentaries about the Nazis, heard in podcasts, history podcasts. So I felt like the information that I was given in this book was accurate because I had heard it and read it in other sources before. So I would not recommend these books to anyone. Like if you're not interested in the Second World War and all that, then don't bother with this. And if you hate like Da Vinci Code type mysteries, don't read it. But if you are sort of like me, interested in history and the Second World War and these kinds of mysteries, things, symbols hidden in books, hidden in caves and that kind of stuff, then I would recommend them. It's a fun ride. It's fun. It's a lot of misery as well, of course, because it's about the Second World War and Nazism and all that. But the story is it's fast paced. The language is very easy and accessible, and I find the topics super interesting. So I really enjoyed the first book, and I will definitely keep reading them until I finally get to the fourth book. Okay, so now last but not least, my absolute favorite book of February, and I suspect that it might be my favorite book of the whole year because I loved it so much. And that is Lilla Smycket by Patrick Modiano. So this is the Swedish translation from the French original, which is called La Petite Bijou, which would translate into the little like jewelry in English. And Patrick Modiano won the Nobel Prize in literature in 2014, I believe. And it's so well deserved. This is the second book by him that I've read. The first one was Villa Triste, which I read in French, and now this one, which I read in Swedish, because I found it like at a Goodwill in Swedish for €1, which was the best euro that I've ever spent. This is not a very long book, as you can see, but it is so good. I would recommend absolutely everyone to read it. It is so mysterious, and like you are left with like there are so many questions all the time, and like the people that you meet in the book, they're so interesting, you want to know more about them, but he never gives you like all the information, so you have to wonder for yourself, you have to fill in the blanks, you have to imagine like alternatives yourself. It's the complete opposite of Babel. Like this is exactly what I want to read. I want to think for myself. I want to imagine things. I want to be taken on a ride that I have no idea where it's going to like end up or be or anything. So this is basically about a book about a young woman in Paris who, while one day on the metro, sees a woman which she like is convinced is her mother, who has been sort of gone or lost for many years. She starts to follow this woman, and I don't want to say anymore because I don't want to spoil anything. It's just such a great book. I think it's my new favorite book, actually. I'm definitely going to pick up more of his books. I'm sure I can find many of them at the library here in France. So yeah, expect more Patrick Modiano on my channel. So those are all the books that I read in February, and I just want to finish off by saying thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next video.